There we go. All right.
There we go.
This is 107, right?
Yeah, 107.
Yes. 107. It's episode 107 of Snakes and Stogies.
107.
I am Justin Smith of Palmetto Coast Exotics.
I am Phil Wolf.
Uh-oh. Your mic. Is that your mic or my mic?
I'm just talking. I don't hear it.
Does anybody else hear that?
I do.
Okay. It's totally Phil. Yeah, adjust your XLR. There you go. Oh, good Lord. Nope. There we go. Nope. Don't touch it.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There you go. It's perfect. As long as you literally don't touch it.
Don't touch it. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Yes. Here we go. The worst part is we're not going to edit that out. That's how this show starts.
Yep.
Okay.
How we roll. So this is episode 107 of Snakes and Stogies, which is brought to you by Puget Sound Pythons. You can't see their shirt. It's hanging right here. I readjusted the whole studio thing today, so everything's a little different. I'm on a different wall than I was before. And it's also brought to you by blackboxcages.com. I believe Jen and Clint are going to be watching tonight. I don't know for sure. She mentioned she was going to try. So
stand up.
Do you have your order placed?
Not only do I have my order placed, but they've been kind enough to cater to some interesting ideas and concepts I have for some future enclosures that are not anything normal. So, and I was actually talking to Jen today about doing some kind of risers on casters because they do those awesome little caster plates that you can put on the bottom of their enclosures. So things can wheel around and move around and you can have some flexibility. Well, I was talking to her about doing some interconnecting stuff, and we've got some plans in the woodworks.
Like a train where they
I mean, we'll keep it hush hush for now, but let's just say
you'll have to explain that to me later.
Things will be very easily mobile and accessible.
Yeah, so check them out: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube for Puget Sound, and then blackboxcages.com. And check them out. Also on Facebook and Instagram, they're doing awesome stuff. I am planning to do a review of my the V70 rack I have from them. I just haven't gotten around to it, so it's gonna happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm very, very excited, and they're making me some really cool stuff. And I was told not to say anything just yet because they want to iron out some bugs first, and then once it's like, okay, this is what we're going to do, then I'm going to spam it everywhere and be like, haha, look what I get, kids.
As far as tortoise stuff goes, I know Tyler was bugging them for a couple modifications to some cages that he's ordering in the future. So they're working with him on some neat stuff too.
And you saw, well, let's do this. Before we keep talking about Black Box and how they're awesome, let's introduce our guest tonight.
Jeremy Thompson from the Connexus Cooperative.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thank you.
And this is a long time coming, man. I'm very excited about this episode. So
pumped to be on.
So you go to Tyler's house frequently enough. He sent me a video of some tortoises in a black box enclosure, and dude, it's awesome. I mean, obviously they're little tortoises. They've got some growing to do, but how's it look in person?
Yeah, basically a lot of the young ones that we raise up, whether it's hingebacks or radiateds or whatever else we're working with, we raise the young ones closed chamber, basically, in a cage similar to a black box or a black box cage. The ones at my place are just ones that I built years ago that I'm looking to upgrade. But Tyler grabbed some black box cages. He's using them at his place. And then we've got a joint facility where we work on some other stuff, and we're using some of their cages there as well for some lizards and tortoises. So he was bugging them for a couple ideas on caging that would help for baby hingebacks, because we like to keep them individually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. No, but
Very
he's been happy with them.
Tyler's the man.
He is.
He's I
the
said it a
man.
couple weeks ago. It's one of my favorite people, man. He's an awesome dude.
He is
Legit.
awesome.
I'm really glad that, you know, we linked up at Daytona and started chatting regularly and stuff like that. You know, it's just he's a fun guy to talk to, and he's always upbeat. So
For sure. Yeah, no, we said we're bad influences on each other. We're too close in proximity, and it just goes crazy. So I know our wives would say the same thing. The people we work with say the same thing. Yeah, it's two people that are passionate about it. Just doubling down on it.
So Jay, I got to show this picture, man. I can't get over this picture.
Oh, nice.
How freaking awesome is that facility?
Yeah, that was basically Marissa and I moved in the last year and a half to a place that we purchased, and that basically our first home had a sweet building that was ready to rock, and it took us just doing the inside. So it was a metal building, just bare metal with a concrete floor, and we got power to it, got some spray foam, plumbed it, put up studs, all that kind of good stuff, and then painstakingly did the floor. I had a local friend of ours, Matt Phillips, shout out to him. He helped me get the floor done. He's done that kind of stuff before, and then hand painted the logo on there.
Wow.
So,
that's hand painted?
Yeah, so it's traced. I have no artistic ability at all.
Still, how big is the diameter of the circle?
14 feet.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. So basically, we used a projector to project it onto the wall. Taped a bunch of poster board together, traced it, cut it out, and then painted it on the floor. And then clear coated over it. So
how big is the building, overall?
It's a 40 by 30. So it's pretty good size, and it allowed me to kind of separate, at least in my process of how I'm going through the building and servicing stuff, my captive born stuff from my wild caught.
Mm-hmm.
My wild caught stuff at this point has been with me a long time, but I still have my process of going through the youngest, newest babies first, and then working my way to the nuclear tortoises, as Tyler would refer to them as.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were the one that started the Conixis Co-op, right?
Yeah. So the Conixis Cooperatives, myself and my wife, and then when we went to the Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group conference, myself, Tyler, David, Andrew, and Tom started the Conixis Working Group. So that's the working group is the collaborative group of people. The 5 of us started it, but there's a bunch of members at this point that contribute to it. But yeah,
that's
the
awesome,
co-op was, it's just inspired by a good friend of mine, David Mifsud, who, passed me along my first hingebacks, and the rest is history.
So what is it about that genus that sort of drew you into those specifically?
They're tricky, honestly. I've been asked that before, and really it comes down to, they're difficult. And I've worked with a lot of different reptiles. I'm only 30, but I started when I was teeny tiny. And I wanted to work with something that I was going to struggle with. And even, with the Conixis Cooperative rolling, and I'm producing hatchlings each year, I'm still struggling through each season, something with it, especially wild caught animals. So selfishly, it's, it keeps my interest. It's tricky, and I don't think I'll ever get it figured out completely with each species, but one year you got one species dialed in and they're cranking, and it shifts the next year. So
Yeah.
aside from them just being cool, like it's an inquisitive, neat group of tortoises that's underworked with.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like the combination of all that stuff and getting the chance to do some field research out in South Africa with them, like that was the nail in the coffin.
That's
as soon
it,
as
man.
I saw them out there. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I always like them because I mean I'm an African junkie, and dude, they're just a unique, cool species. And like I'll be honest, but I'm torn between them and leopards. Like I really like leopards too. And I'm not a tortoise guy by any means, but I really like them and I really appreciate them. And just meeting you, meeting Tyler, and like Tyler telling me about how the imports, just like monitors, like they need to build trust, they need to build an acclimation. And you know, I got them from my mom because my mom wanted a cool, smaller tortoise species. And I mean, she just has, we're 99% sure it's two males and they're just pets. But, you know, Tyler asked me a bunch of questions like, hey, man, did your mom do this? Did your mom do that? And he was just being friendly about it. And I was like, yeah. He goes, dude, what my mom did, she unknowingly was building the trust and making them comfortable and doing all that cool stuff that, you know, we look for and try and, you know, get to. And my mom was just chilling, playing with turtles. So,
That's
it's
awesome.
cool, man. You know, you guys have educated me a lot on them. I know Justin, I can speak for Justin on that too, man. Awesome genus.
How did she end up with the specs?
I was
it just completely random? Like, oh, these are cool, or was it? It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't
yes
like
and
intentional to go get the specky eye.
Well, no, it wasn't intentional. And my mom always had aquatic turtles. She had sliders, and my mom had a big pond in her backyard. It was one of the ponds that you were supposed to put in the ground, and she never did. She put it on the concrete patio by the pool, and it made it easier for her because she could, you know, drain the thing and hose it out, and, you know, do the standard aquatic maintenance and not have to worry about, you know, it popping out of the ground or anything. And because Florida does that, it's weird. And eventually, one passed away, and then another one got murdered by some kind of mammal in the middle of the night, and she had one left, so she gave that one to a friend. And she's like, you know, I think I really want to get into tortoises, but I don't want to do anything gigantic, you know. And I was like, well, there's a lot of African species like these hingebacks that are really cool. And I said, you know what, I'll just keep an eye out, and you know, if I see them, I'll grab them for you. And Underground had just got in, I believe it was a Mozambique shipment, and there was like 60 or 70 of them. And I just went through and I picked two good looking ones, and I kind of looked at their shells, and at the time I really didn't know what I was looking at. And I was like, well, this kind of looks like it's a male and this kind of looks like it's a female, and you know, hey, screw it. And I think I paid like $150 for both of them. And
sounds right.
Yeah. And she was ecstatic, and dude, she loves those freaking turtles. So
that's
it's
awesome.
fun. It's fun, man. And I got her you gave me all those stickers too. And she's a high school teacher, and she put all the Connexus stickers all over her work computer. And like her students are in high school, and they're like, are those turtles? And she's like, yes, they are.
Nice.
So,
I put that's the stickers I got from you guys on my like my Daytona travel humidor that I bring with me that holds, you know, like a freaking box of cigars. And it was cracking me up because that was like the best sticker out of the lot was the two Connexus getting it on.
Yeah.
That sticker was a friend of mine's idea. He's the one that helped me make my initial like group of stickers when I first launched the Connexus Cooperative. Is a good friend of mine, Ian, out in London. And, you know, he went digging through some of my photos and basically made digital versions of them and tweaked them way too many times for me. And he saw that photo and he's like, oh, we're doing it for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And dude, and like the co-op logo is a fantastic logo too. You
so
know,
the logo, the Zombensis shell in the center is a digital form of an exact specimen that I found in South Africa, which is kind of neat.
That's super cool, man. Super cool.
Yeah.
Look at that smile, man. Look at that smile. The happiest dude in the world.
One thing that I was thinking of when you mentioned your mom and the specs is that, you know, she basically, the way that she set them up and established them, you know, ended up being like a great way to do it. And those are thriving with her. And that's a a story that we actually hear a lot is, the one or two of a certain species that someone got years ago and they thrived with that person, and those things are still around, which I think is pretty cool because, turtle guys will get these things and struggle with them and kill them all off, or they'll, grab a group of 50 and throw them all together and hope for the best. But
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the person that gets just one or two and really, puts a lot into them as pets, and they end up doing great for them. So that's neat to hear.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can't wait to show her this too. So she'll love it. And I got her the shirt and everything, and she loves it. It's her favorite shirt. So
Awesome.
I can't thank you enough, man. Are you wearing a Nephris Initiative shirt?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Look at that. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely love it, dude. Super cool.
Gotta support.
So I was just thinking, Smitty, we didn't even cover cigars for the night.
I know we were so
I know, discombobulated with the whole microphone debacle. So you want to put the hingebacks on pause for a second? Did you have questions from tobacco? Any tobacco questions from the last week?
No.
Okay.
I am smoking an H. Upman AJ Fernandez Heritage. Never had it before. Came back from the expo. It's pretty good. It's an AJ for sure, because it's just everything. There's no. So when it comes to AJ Fernandez stuff, most of it's pretty solid. My main issue with it is it all usually tastes very similar, and it's not very nuanced. It's very much like in your face, aggressive flavor wise, strong. And this is no exception, but it is good. I don't know. I like it.
Nice. That's good. I too am smoking something I've never had before. So I'm going to butcher this name, but La Instructora, and it's the Perfection Invicto Perfecto. And it caught my eye because it's got a Jackson Pollock painting as the band.
Oh, the guy. Ooh, the guy that owns that company came into the shop one day.
Okay.
He is a tool.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He drinks his own Kool-Aid very hardcore. He's the 1% of the 1%, his words.
Okay.
Complained that our bathroom was upstairs and that he had to go upstairs to use the bathroom. Like, just really goofy stuff. The cigar, like, I had one of their sticks, and it actually wasn't bad, but
okay,
I was fairly turned off, just with our brief interaction. I was like, this.
Well, see, what bothered me is that my tobacconist told me what it was. I couldn't for the life of me remember, and the name is embossed on the band, but it's so crazy. You physically can't read it. But I love Jackson Pollock, and this just turned me on, man. I was like, all right, Dominican, Habano, a little bit of Habano in there. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna give it a whirl. But
yeah, it didn't disappoint. It was the one that I had was solid. I can't remember a whole lot about it specifically, but it was good.
Fair enough. All right.
We had a question earlier, real quick. Do you still keep Impressa?
So I still own Impressa, but I don't keep them. They're out on loan with folks that I trust. So those are, if hingebacks are touchy, Impressa can be more touchy. Mm-hmm. So although it's my favorite tortoise on the planet, I kind of just had to make a decision on working with those guys or working with hingebacks, and I chose to work with hingebacks and sent those on their way to people who are specializing in Asian stuff. But cool tortoise. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Smitty, you going to jump back onto the website?
Yeah. I'm looking. I'm flipping through pages right now without showing everybody. So, I mean, currently there's really Homiana are kind of the main one, right? As far as what people have, like what's imported, what people are keeping.
Yeah. So Homiana, Speckeye, Arosa, and Nagui are the four that are prevalent in the United States. Most of those aren't being imported anymore. It's just kind of what's still around. But specs are, I would say, the hardiest out of the group. Homiana, I think more people have Homiana than anything else because they're a lot of people are producing them.
And Homiana are the largest or no?
Erosa are
Erosa,
at least the
okay.
largest of what we work with here. There's a Malagasy form of Zombensis called Domergui, and those guys can get pretty big, but I have some pretty big Erosa.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Erosa are awesome.
You know what's funny is like looking at the Nogui. Like this is what the shell reminds me of, the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies back in the 90s.
Yes.
Like that's exactly what their shell looked like.
Yep.
I love that.
So Nogui haven't been imported since like 2000 or 2001, something like that. But it's basically a story of a bunch of folks who kept one or two around, and now they're in the hands of folks that are producing them. So that's kind of a neat project that survived only because 50 people kept one or two alive, and those got in the hands of people who are cranking them.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Look at that shell.
Yeah.
That's so freaking cool, man.
Zombensis are so neat. Yeah, that one there was my first that I've ever hatched.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, the working group, definitely a shout out for them. That's what's up now. And yeah, it's really the only way I think to keep Hingebacks around long term is through the working group, through a collaboration of zoos and institutions and private keepers like myself, working together to keep these guys around, whether it's gifting them to each other or I've sold some of my offspring as well. Just making sure that they end up right now in homes that where people are going to try and reproduce them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything cooking right now?
I do. I just got some Homiana eggs last night, and
Excellent.
Yeah, this is kind of the start of the season, basically. So I've got 7 or 8 clutches on the ground from every species that I work with except for Nogui. No Nogui females have laid yet, but the rest have at least each laid one.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And all right, so how many eggs is a typical clutch, and how many clutches is a typical season?
So females will lay, and this is, across the 5 species that I have at least females of.
Ballparks, yeah.
Yeah. Females are laying a nest to 3 nests, so 1 to 3 nests. And like Zombensis sometimes will lay a single egg.
Wow.
Where Erosa I've had lay 10 eggs.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Erosa are the outlier. Erosa are the ones that are going to, lay 3 to 10 eggs most of the time. And the rest of the genus, at least of what I work with, are going to lay like 1 to 4. But
Okay.
Erosa are the outliers. They're the ones laying big clutches. Nothing else does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least in my experience.
Yeah, the Homiana cracked me up, man, because they're just like the most bizarrely shaped.
Yeah.
Like it's almost, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like a raisin. Like they got left out in the sun too long and they kind of just like shriveled up a little bit. And
you're making them sound lovely.
I love the big flanges on the front too, though. I mean, they're really cool. Like that's one of the reasons I like them is because they look, they look different. They're not like a lot of the other tortoise species you see in the hobby that are just sort of your standard dome shape. Like these guys are.
Yeah.
They look awesome.
It always, the genus always reminded me, and this is going to sound cockamamie, but it always reminded me of the stealth fighter because there's no right angles anywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, And like that's just it. Like these turtles were designed to repel radar.
They were. I buy that.
Yeah, dude.
So is this Homiana in particular? Why is it? Is it just because it's wet that it's more orange, like it has more color going on?
Yeah, so being wet definitely helps, but they come from a wide range. So,
Mhm.
you know, most of the ones that we get in are just brown with very little markings. But, and that one looks wild caught, but a lot of the captive born, you'll get some really gorgeous growth in the captive born animals. So, even brown wild caught adults that have no pattern, like most of mine, will produce some really stunning captive born babies.
Yeah, those are so cool.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah, that's an Arosa, the one on the top that you're clicking now.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like wood almost. They're beautiful.
Oof.
Zombensis. Yeah, that's a little Zombensis.
Now, how closely related are these to, like the leopards?
Not very, but I couldn't tell you exactly how closely
Okay.
related. Yeah, I think they're more closely related to like Homopus, the padlopers, than they are leopard tortoises.
Hmm.
But what's interesting is
Who's that guy?
yours truly. That's a little Labatzi.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to Tyler about I wanted to use that for the magazine. I was like, I wanted to use that for the cover, but I think he said he didn't have access to the high res version of that.
I think Flora Elo, she's the researcher that I joined in South Africa. She took that photo. If you all want to use it in the future, I can help get the better version of it. But yeah, she took that photo with a good camera. But honestly, if you're using one of her photos, it's not that one. She's got some great ones.
No. Yeah, so the last issue of the magazine is when we did a feature on the Homiana.
Yes. Yeah, that was a great article. Anybody who hasn't seen it should go check it out. It was Tyler Brooks's article on Connexus Homiana and his success producing them, keeping them, establishing them, all that.
I'm trying to find. I just found the Instagram picture. It was a Labatzi from. Oh, it doesn't even say. I think it was Highveld, but I could be mistaken. I'm trying to get the guy's Instagram so that I can show it to you guys because he's a South African guy who's like a incredible field herper. But for whatever reason, his page is not loading on the computer.
Is it Courtney Hundermark or Tyrone Ping?
No. This guy's name is Louis Daniel.
Okay. Oh yeah.
You heard him?
Yeah, I follow him.
I'm trying to get this picture. This picture's incredible because the thing's neon red.
Dang.
You know what I'm going to do? We're going to do this old school here.
Dang, that's gorgeous.
I mean, this is making it look really crazy. Obviously, the camera on the stream is making it look redder than real, but
yeah,
just the thing is incredible. Let me see if I can get it to focus and not be so radioactive. There we go.
Nice. Yeah, that's a beautiful Labatzi. A lot of those, aren't quite that nice. That's a real nice one.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Those are unfortunately not really in the hobby in the States. There's a couple people in Europe working with them, but yeah, that's the target species that we were focusing on in South Africa for the research.
Cool.
How long were y'all there?
I joined Flora for 2.5 weeks. She was there for 6 weeks. And the first time I went with David Mifsud for 3 or 3.5 weeks. So I've gone twice, and I want to go again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
That's what I hear, man. Once you go once, you get hooked,
Yeah, it's just different seeing them out there. And I'm also, a snake guy, and I love chameleons and that kind of stuff. And obviously, there's a ton of awesome herps out there, from snakes to the or the Bradipodian, the South American or South African dwarf chameleons. Those things are amazing. I love them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that and like China and the Western Ghats are pretty much at the top of my bucket list herping spots. But there's definitely plenty of spots in Africa, across that entire continent that would be awesome to check out.
Oh yeah.
Like our buddy Mike Clarkson just posted pictures in the Snakes and Stogies group chat. He went to like Central Africa, right? Because he saw some Atheris nischii, which is like one of the coolest species of snake in my opinion. That's like a personal favorite. Like that color scheme and just look can't be beat. And he was posting pictures of some that he saw, and I was like, that would have been so freaking cool to come across some of those.
Oh yeah.
Really, any of the bush vipers would be sweet to see.
So where in South Africa did you guys do your research?
So we were focused basically in northeastern South Africa for Lobatiana. Northern,
Close to Mozambique border.
So we went basically from that border all the way over to the Botswana border.
Okay.
And then we went, and this was with David. So, we basically hit Hingeback territory, which is northwest and northeast South Africa. And then we drove down to the Cape to meet up with two friends and to herp a little bit down there to do non-Hingeback stuff.
Cool.
And then with Flora, it was basically just the Conyxus lobatiana range. So she got into, the Mozambique border before I got there with another person that joined her. But we spent most of our time, in and around the Botswana border, tent camping and, just out in the field 24/7. She was, working on trying to close some sampling gaps that she's had the last couple of years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And was Lobatsi the only one that you guys found, or no? The only species you found, or no?
So we crossed into some specs because that range overlaps, but Lobatiana range doesn't overlap with Zambensis or Natalensis range. And if it does, it's a tiny little amount. So, but they definitely overlap with specs. And, when I say overlap, specs tend to dominate the landscape, and Lobatsi are in these little pockets. Okay. So she's still working to figure out whether they actually overlap, like whether you can find both of them on the same, acre plot of land.
Sure.
But so far, it's like the spec eye range is this big bubble, and then you have Lobatsi pockets.
Is that is she learning about like natural barriers, or is it because of human roads and stuff, or all the above?
So initially folks said, the history books said that Lobatsi like rocky outcroppings, but she quickly found that that wasn't the case, and that, maybe one population, was amongst these rocky outcroppings, but it's more of a grassland tortoise, and specs are also grassland tortoises. So the range in Botswana of Lobatsi is this big bubble with little speck eye blotches, and in South Africa it's the opposite. However, the speck eye range goes all the way up to Kenya consistently. Yeah. So, it's something that she's working on that, we may never know the answer to, or maybe not for a very long time. But, it's interesting to see those pockets in South Africa because, is specs kind of moving in and pushing Lobatsi to these little pockets of extremes? And will that continue west into Botswana, where Lobatsi right now are the big bubble? Or, is it kind of happening the opposite direction? I'm sure Flora could explain it better, but it's neat to see the little pockets, because when you see a distribution of a species, you kind of assume, they're everywhere in this bubble, but that's not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, it sounds fairly similar to Alterna and stuff in West Texas, where they're sort of like island, like with these cuts and stuff. They have a wide range, but it's much more concentrated to like these smaller areas where there's just pockets of them.
Okay.
But was there anything when you were there that you took home in terms of like data and information that you applied to what you have?
So on my first trip, yeah, I mean, you definitely take home. Honestly, I went home feeling guilty on how small my enclosures were, and my enclosures aren't small compared to most keepers.
Right.
But you see someone out there utilizing multiple burrows and doing its thing, and you're just like, I can do a little better. Substrate, all that kind of stuff I paid attention to. But on my second trip, Flora had put out a bunch of data loggers all around the Lobatse range. And although I only have one Lobatse, I have specs as well, and they overlap. So, having access to data logger information that's telling me at ground level, at tortoise height, what are they experiencing? She also, she's doing some work with, camera traps and, data loggers and burrows and all that kind of stuff that she'll eventually publish so that, it's out there for everyone to utilize and learn from. So, that's some stuff that I took from it.
Very cool.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see what the difference is as far as the microclimates from the burrows to, outside of those. And
yeah,
it's amazing what you can learn from the simple stuff, temperatures and humidities and things like that those loggers keep track of. We've been talking about them a lot lately, just, the little govies that we use in our cages and stuff just to keep track of what's what. And you learn so much from simple numbers,
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Where have you guys gotten out in the field, even if it's somewhere in the United States, and where did you guys enjoy?
We'll go first, Smitty.
I mean, Phil's been out a whole lot more than I have, but I mean, we went to West Texas back in June?
Yeah.
Together with some of the NPR guys, and that's the extent of my herping outside of here in South Carolina. So, yeah, and even then, I don't do a ton when I'm here.
Okay.
I'm planning to change that this year. But
do it.
It's unfortunately, I have never left the continent, but I have been lucky enough to do a fair bit of traveling in our country and try and herp as much as I can when I go. West Texas was incredible because I'm in South Florida, so there's several different ecosystems, but for the most part, there's only 2 seasons. And even if you are in one type of ecosystem, it's feet, if not inches, to the next one. So going to like West Texas and seeing of wide diversity of ecosystems was just incredible. And I can only imagine you going to South Africa and seeing all those different ecosystems in one landscape. Like that's a major goal of mine. Like the Dark Continent is high on my list of places to herp and go. So I'm very, very envious. But I think people that go herping that don't get to go herping a lot, if they haven't gone in a long time, or they don't get to go often, or they've never gone, it's so overwhelming because you're amazed at what you're seeing, you're soaking everything in, and then like you said, your second trip, you're like, okay, now I got to remember to check this, check that, write this down, photograph that. Like even when we went to Texas, like there's 5 guys with 5 cameras going off at once, whether it be real cameras or cell phones. And how many times I said, man, I should have took a picture. Why didn't I take a picture?
Yeah.
But we were lucky enough that we had 5 of us there to swap photos and share those memories like that. But yeah, man, Africa's pretty awesome, and I need to go.
At the same time, though, it's almost like one of those things where it's like when you go to a concert and people are all watching the concert through their phone instead of actually watching the concert. It's like I don't need to document it to show everyone else I was there. I'm here to enjoy it.
Yes.
I was just about to say, that's something that I had those moments after my first trip where I took so many photos and I was like, I'm only going to be here once. I'll never do this again. And, with two of the tortoises, the one and only Labatzi that I found and the one and only Zombensis that I found on that first trip, like I really remember those, and I wasn't focused on like just get photos, but like a lot of the rest of the trip, like you're so much through a lens of either your phone or a camera that you forget to kind of stop and like enjoy where you are and what you're doing. And the second trip was kind of the opposite. I was lucky that Flora had the nice camera and she's the researcher and she's taking quality photos and she's there for work. And I was just there to help, whatever that looked like. So I really did get to kind of take a step back and remember that trip. Yeah, soak it in and realize like, dang, this is fantastic. And, also to go with a researcher who like knows her shit, who, could teach me a lot about, why when we went there the first time, why we struggled to find stuff. David and I did our best and we had help from a friend, Paul, who's South African. But, having someone that spent 5 years there, we're going through areas that are the very outer boundaries of the range where we don't even know if they exist and we're finding them. So, we just did real well having somebody who really knows her stuff and, can look at habitat and go, no, this isn't right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How many other species did you encounter living harmoniously with a tortoise?
Oh man. Leopard tortoises are everywhere. Literally.
Really?
Yeah. It's like flies.
That's crazy.
Every time you see a tortoise shell moving, you get excited, and 99.9% of the time it's a leopard tortoise. So, I love leopard tortoises. On my first trip, I was just excited to see a tortoise because we did struggle to find some Hingeback tortoises at first. But on my second trip, I was tired of them.
Is there no serious competition between them and the Canixa stuff?
So what's interesting is that Hingeback tortoises tend to hide. They're in the burrows. They're kind of like a box turtle more than anything. So if you think about like a box turtle, like a Florida box turtle living in habitat near a gopher tortoise, there's not much overlap in I guess in their needs or resources.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, box turtles are eating a little bit different stuff, and a Hingeback isn't quite a box turtle, but there's millipede exoskeleton and snail shells and all that in their feces, where like a leopard tortoise is eating the grasses and your weeds and stuff like that. Hingebacks definitely are eating some weeds, but they want animal protein too. So they're in a burrow coming out for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, and otherwise they're not moving, where leopard tortoises are on the move most of the day. Those things are running around.
Tanks.
We did find a male leopard tortoise trying to breed a female Labatzi, which was interesting. Yeah. I mean, he was mounting her and breeding her, but he was a lot bigger.
Classic tortoise maneuver.
Yes. The one time we found a leopard, and we're very happy to find a leopard tortoise.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Has there been any cases of intergrade like in the area or no?
So I'm not aware of any with leopard tortoises, but Flora is doing some genetic work on tortoises that looked like one species, and then her, DNA came back, and the gene code that she's using says it's a different species, or some that just look like an intergrade between two, like one that you're like, it's flat like a Specs, but it's patterned like a Zombensis, and it has a head like a Zombensis. And a friend of ours, Gabriel, he was in Thailand and now he's in England. He has a group of Zombensis that he was able to reproduce in Thailand, and he has a single female Belliana, and out there he's not able to get more Belliana.
Right.
So he paired that up just to see if they could produce an intergrade or a hybrid, and he did hatch a viable baby from them.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Has Flora or anyone else done any sort of tracking as far as how much movement is happening with any of the Connexus that she's been watching?
The state of the world put a damper on her field research the last year and a half, but she is working to find South African students to do a radio tracking project. It's not something that she could do. She's not there enough, but she's got a contact out there. She also has a friend in Botswana that's considering doing some research on his property.
Yeah, because you had mentioned going there and seeing, talking about enclosure size and stuff like that. It made me wonder if they're a highly, maybe not all Connexus, but certain ones, be it Specs or something else, maybe if they're using more space on a daily basis, or do you think they're kind of sticking to more of a smaller radius of, a couple 100 yards or even less than that day to day?
Specs seem to be utilizing burrows. We don't really have evidence that they're digging any burrows, and I've never really seen mine dig a burrow. They'll kind of like shake down into a wallow in captivity. And I use little half clay pots that they go and tuck themselves in, but they certainly utilize burrows. And we've got evidence that they're utilizing the same burrow over and over again. But then there are days where they don't go back to that burrow. So, we don't know what that tortoise is doing, but, whether it has a couple burrows it uses or it just decided to, go under a bush or something that evening, we don't know. But hopefully we'll get some radio tracking data from them.
That's super cool, man. Super cool.
Yeah, I love it when people are focused on a species that maybe doesn't get nearly as much attention as others and really devoted to it and finding out every bit of information they possibly can about them. Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah, and any of that stuff in South Africa, that's Flora Elo's work. So I don't take any credit for that stuff. I was just helping, but she's doing some sweet stuff. And and some of her work, when you showed my website earlier, under the education section, she was nice enough to let me host some of her publications on there. So for folks who are, interested in that side of what I'm doing, some of Flora's work is published there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll share that link as much as we can.
Cool. Thank you.
Just going back to locality stuff, just from sheer curiosity, talking about how like Natalensis is way farther south, obviously. Is there a gap? Like, does some of these northern species, like, does it bleed into Transvaal or Free State, or is it just kind of hug the border to the north, and then there's a gap of nothing, no Specs or no Connexus land, I should say.
Yeah, there's a gap between like the padlopers and the tent tortoises and the Hingeback tortoises, where there's just leopard tortoises. So, I guess there's not a complete gap. And then as far as the Hingeback range itself, the 4 species that exist in South Africa, it's kind of like where one stops, another starts. There's not a big gap. So you're not, driving for a couple hours where you're not in Hingeback range when you're in Hingeback range.
Cool.
So yeah, like one bleeds into another. It's like Labatsi from the west in Botswana bleeds into Specs, which bleeds into Zombensis, and then going south, it goes into Natalensis.
Very cool.
So at least in South Africa. And then Zombensis and Specci go north, like into Mozambique and into Kenya.
And then how many subspecies of Zombensis are there?
So there's only, there's the nominant, so Connexus zombensis, and then there's one subspecies that's Connexus zombensis domergui, and that's the only hingeback that's not, well, there's one on Zanzibar that's not yet documented, but and I say one, there's a group.
Right.
And then, but as far as what's recognized, domergui are in Madagascar. It's the only Connexus that's not on the mainland.
And Zombensis is the only Connexus that has subspecies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Everything else is full species. A lot of them before the Kindler paper that was published in 2012, like some more genetic work that was done, a lot of them were Connexus belliana negui, Connexus belliana, even further back, it was Connexus belliana specci, but they got elevated to full species.
Cool.
Yeah. And like looking at that paper, it's another thing that, people should go check out. The paper basically showed, the history of, what species likely came first and which are the most recent and, which are closely related to each other. And it was kind of neat. Like a lot of people, as I said, thought Labatsi were like the rocky outcrop, dry, arid tortoise, but they are actually most closely related to the forest species, Erosa and Homiana. And when genetically, and when you look at their shell, I'll try and find the photo for you guys. But when you look at the shell of a Labatsi, it's got the scalloped rear marginal scutes. So around the back of the tortoise, it's got scalloping, where the only other two hingeback tortoises that have that are Erosa and Homiana, and everything else, that it's around, like Labatsi is surrounded by all these grassland tortoises that don't share that. And genetics show that Labatsi are not most related to the ones that are near it, but they're most related to the ones that are way up north in Ghana and Togo and, the Congo. Just kind of cool.
And then that's super cool. I just got the photos you sent me earlier. Sorry. I'm gonna throw them up while you dig that one out.
Yes.
And then the Zanzibar ones, do you personally think that that's a human transplant, or do you think that was something that just happened naturally?
It's probably a human transplant, and the domergui are likely a human transplant, like in my opinion, from what I've heard and the people I've spoken with. Yeah, and what's interesting to me personally is that most of the tortoises, like say Pyxis, right? Pyxis, the spider tortoises that are in Madagascar are these tiny little tortoises, that sleep for most of the year and are active for very little periods of time, and they're utilizing like no food and calories, where say that domergui were brought from the mainland and they were a transplant, those tortoises are like nearly twice the size of the ones on mainland.
Wow.
So it's kind of interesting where some of the tortoises in Madagascar have worked with such little resources, and they're teeny tiny. Like, of course, yes, there's radiated tortoises and plowshare tortoises, but you've got these teeny tiny little Pyxis, and then say you brought Zombensis there, why did they over many, many years become twice as large as the ones on the mainland? It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's odd. It's kind of the opposite of how it usually works.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know the answer, but yeah, neat to think about. They kind of look like, some of them look more like Zombensis to me. Some of them look like they've got maybe some Belliana influence, but that's just my opinion. There's no data to back that up. Let me see if I can find this. It's basically a photo I took of the one that you've got live now is an adult Erosa male.
Super cool. Such a light color to that head.
Yeah, so Erosa males will either kind of be this coloration with the kind of pastel yellow shell with the yellow head, or they'll be like black and orange with a bright orange head. They can be real gorgeous.
And is that, you know, indicative of the parents from a locality phenotype, or is that just random?
So I spoke with Dwight Lawson, who I've got some of his work on my website as well. He's the curator at the Oklahoma City Zoo right now. He was at Zoo Atlanta doing a bunch of awesome work there, but he did his doctoral work, or I believe it was his doctoral work on Conyxis erosa and some on Conyxis homiana and some other stuff. But he was in the Congo, like in the field, finding these guys. And when I sent him pictures of some males that I have that look like the one that you see there,
Right.
Some that have brown, like gray heads, some that have kind of pink heads, he said like that's natural variation within a population. So before I
Okay.
spoke with him, I would have said like that's a locality difference, but he
Right.
said it's not. He saw males that look like all these different types within a single population.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes. Yeah. So there's kind of an in-betweener, like a male that isn't quite the, bright orange with the black markings, but part of the way there. I'll try to get you a photo of one of those as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I just can't get over like the geometry of it, It's just so cool.
Let's see. I found the photo. Yeah, and it's not a great one, but it basically shows you, those are some baby erosa. It shows you the shell of a Labatzi and the shell of a homiana, and to the untrained eye, they look super similar. It's coming at you.
Nice. I gotta ask, what are the blue dots?
So those are just marking bloodlines. Yeah. So there's little tiny, I use nail polish marks to designate. Yeah. So, the blue are from one clutch, the bottom left animals from a different clutch. It hasn't been marked yet. And I start at that left, the left front scoot, and then move out from there. So it's the front marginal scoot. At the first one, it's the first one that hatched all the way to 5 in that clutch.
Oh, nice. That's super cool. That's a great way to do it, man.
Yeah, it helps you keep track. It's something I stole from, I'm not even sure who at this point, but yeah, it's something that we use in the turtle world.
Yeah, I've seen a fair bit of dragon breeders kind of do the same thing where they take like a non-toxic marker and they'll just like color a stripe on their tail, and obviously it only lasts until the next shed, and I imagine that the nail polish probably lasts longer with these guys.
Yeah, it lasts a pretty good long time, honestly. I know, some people microchip them or pit tag them, which I'll be working with a vet to do here soon. But, for babies, it's a good way to keep track of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you have that many,
Yeah.
Look at those little golf balls.
Conyxis homiana female. And yeah, you can see she's dirty, but you can see the scalloping at the back of her shell. That's kind of what I was talking about, that you see on those. And you see
has that lobster tail look.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Super cool. And it's always awesome to see the size of the eggs compared to mom. Like, just awesome. And to think that little ping pong ball pops out of what it pops out of. You know what I mean? Like, you know, what I mean by that is like, I can only imagine how big those eggs are. And then you look at like sea turtle eggs and they're almost the same size, but you think about how small the hingeback is compared to the sea turtle, you know?
Those things are close to ping pong ball size. Like you say ping pong ball, but like you're spot on. Like it's ping pong ball sized eggs for sure.
All right, I got the other photos. I'm getting them.
Yeah.
Ready.
So Homiana and Arosa lay those round ping pong ball type eggs, and then pretty much everything else lays more oblong eggs. And there can be, there's variation in there, but some of the specs will lay an egg that's like almost twice as long as it is wide.
Wow.
Yeah. So not an awesome quality photo, but you can see a Labatsi that was found in South Africa on the left, and then a Homiana that's wild caught from Ghana on the right. And like they look darn similar, and they're thought to be, completely opposite in their habitat and their diet and all that stuff. But, they're close relatives that live super far away, but, the morphology is right there.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah. So there's some variation. It's, the yellow to the, the bottom right male. That's just stunning. Like that animal is incredible.
Yeah, man. That's like textbook. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And like we always talk about like tortoise shell, like glasses and like the color tortoise shell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is what like comes to mind,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you think about that and like the forest floor in a bunch of leaf litter and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, you don't get much better than that. I mean,
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I imagine like just sitting there chilling next to a gaboon viper,
Yeah. Yep.
You got to look out.
Right?
Yeah.
So cool, man. Gorgeous animals.
What other species did you see when you were out there? Like snakes and other herps wise?
Man, so the first time I went out there, my friend Paul that we linked up with said, I said to him, all I want to do is see some venomous snakes. Like, of course I want to see hingebacks, but I grew up road cruising for snakes every single night.
You're in the Mecca.
My dad and I road cruised for snakes every night. So yeah, grew up a snake guy, have had a large snake collection in the past. And, I said to him, let's find some snakes. I really want to find a boom slang, cobras, whatever it was. And on my first trip, other than a night adder, I got skunked in being there. So we found other snakes, like a bunch of non-venomous stuff.
Do you remember which night adder it was?
I'll send you a picture. I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's either Rhombiatus or Diphilippi.
So, Rhombic. Yeah, Rhombic night adder. Cool. Yeah. Yep.
I think that's the only thing that would be in that neck of the woods.
Okay. Yeah. So, and Paul found that, but some mole snakes, house snakes.
Nice. Any big moles?
No big moles. Smaller mole snakes. Although in his collection he has a giant mole snake.
Did the juvenile moles, have they changed color yet or no? Color and pattern? No.
No.
They were all one color, or were they still crazy looking?
They were still crazy looking. Yeah.
What do they look like as babies?
Oh, they're totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yeah, here, let me try and pull something up.
Say find one. I didn't know that, because that's one of those species we've talked about in the past too, where it's like when we see one for sale on Morph Market or something here in the States, it's kind of a big deal because it's not, you never see them really available, and they're impressive snakes.
Yeah, it's a neat snake, that ends up turning like a drab brown or black, or dark brown. Yeah, the one we found early was maybe like a foot long, if that. It was a real little one. But Yeah, the second trip was more successful, and yeah, I basically got through most of the trip. Flora and I met up with Terrence and Allison, and he's a big snake guy. She's also a snake person, and I said to him, I still haven't found a venomous snake, and I've spent like 4 weeks in South Africa. Help.
Yeah.
And
What the
we
hell?
went out road cruising and turned up like a puff adder and a couple dead cobras, and
Oh wow.
a stiletto snake.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, stilettos are 100% on my radar.
Yeah, so ours looked, the one that we found, and I can send you a photo of it, but
yeah, please do.
Yeah, on the right side of your screen, the really heavily patterned bright one, it's the one that's kind of down to the left is more like the one that we found. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I had no idea they look like that as babies. That's wild.
And I feel bad because these are even these ones, these two that we just showed, these are ugly babies. And dude, like Matt Most and I have a major hard on for this type of animal, and I've been trying to track some down. A pair came through a couple months back, and they just wanted exuberant amounts of money. And it's crazy because these things are all over the place in South Africa.
Oh yeah.
That's an all right look. That's a pretty good looking one. I like the white on the sides. This turns into this monster diesel brown, pseudo indigo, pseudo cobra.
Yep. I wanted to find an Aurora house snake. That's my favorite snake in South Africa. Those things are awesome.
Yeah, dude, Auroras are fantastic. That's actually kind of Aurora-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they're just South African Pituophis.
Like I was going to say, it reminds me of a pine. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
I would love to see a Cape Cobra. That would be up there on my list of things I got to see if I'm even in that part of the world.
Yeah.
One thing that was neat on our second trip was we visited a collection of a gentleman who kept all of the dwarf bittis.
Nice.
That's so cool, man. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah. So,
did he have every species?
I couldn't tell you, but he had plenty of them. Yeah.
Nice.
And, different species. I don't know mine that well enough to know just by looking at him. But, yeah, he was generous to, share that with us. And, yeah.
I'm convinced all the cool bittis are the tiny ones.
Yeah.
Like everyone thinks, rhinos are awesome, gabs are awesome, parviocula are awesome, but it's like, have you seen cornuta? Have you seen the caudalis? And it's just, they're so freaking cool. And I find it funny. Actually, I think a while back I meant to say I was going to look up a phylogenetic tree just to see how far removed they are from the big bittis. Because to me, it's kind of goofy to have something like the cornuta in the same realm as a giant gaboon. But I don't know. Maybe that's just one of those things that no one's really done any sort of serious amount of work to really. They just kind of get lumped in there. Like, yeah, if
you look at the physiology, they're extremely similar, like in every way. But it's almost, how do I compare this? It's no different than like a Thompson's gazelle and a giraffe. Species that evolved to be larger specifically for a particular task of acquiring food, right? The same way the giraffe, gets the leaves in the top of the tree in an area where it's all thorn scrub and there's nothing really edible, below head level, right? You look at the gaboon is going to attempt to grab bigger mammals and larger lizards. And then you look at Bitis atropos that literally is eating Platysaurus, and that's it. And just like, Thompson's gazelle is eating little sprouts in the ground. So at least that's how I looked at it,
It's probably an accurate accurate interpretation of it too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but it is crazy to see how like one species is even if you compare the hoof stock, like you look at the gazelles and you look at the antelope and stuff, and like there's a gradual increase. But with the Bitis, I feel like it's really tiny or really big. There's no in between, right? You know, you're either 8 inches or you're 5 foot.
So on that thread, I was just looking to confirm, but in Madagascar, it's like Columma, and hopefully some chameleon person doesn't come on and say I'm totally crazy, but like there's the Parsons chameleon,
Right.
that's Columma, so the genus Columma, and they're gigantic. And then it hit me like there's Columma nasuta or nasudum. That's this tiny little chameleon that like will fit on your fingertip. And it's, a similar thing where it's the same genus, within Madagascar on this island, but, one is huge and, one is teeny tiny. And, morphologically, the Nasudum have this long nose appendage sort of thing. And, Parsons don't, but they still, are lumped together.
Yeah.
So as far as keeping snakes goes, what have you been into historically, over the years?
So, I'd say it's king snakes. It's what stuck with me. I've worked with all kinds of stuff from like rhino rat snakes to blood pythons to womas, all kinds of different stuff. Over the years, my dad and I had a pretty good size colubrid collection to start out, and then I kind of branched off from there. But we worked with a lot of Florida Kings. When I was real little, it was field collecting a pair, cranking out babies and turning the babies and the adults loose where we found them and working on something else. So we kind of kept like a species or two at a time.
That's awesome.
Reproduce those guys. And
because you're in the Panhandle, or are you Southmore?
I'm in the Panhandle, but I grew up in Sarasota. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, so south of Tampa, west
prime
coast.
king snake territory.
Sarasota is the best water snakes.
Oh, water snakes like crazy.
Oh yeah,
king snake food.
So let me ask you, in the sorry, my neighbor's dog just came to say hello. Have you gotten all 6 Florida venomous in your area?
No. Like, have I found them?
Yeah.
So I've never found a live coral snake.
Okay, I feel your pain.
Yeah, and then like timber rattlesnake, no, but I've got the rest. Like the copperhead, diamondback rattlesnake, pygmy rattlesnake, cottonmouth. I've got those, but no coral snake and no timber.
All right. Eventually, it's on the list.
I went with Tyler and another friend of ours herping a little while back, and we found a dead coral snake, which was neat to see. And it was like, oh, I'm going back there. But hopefully one day.
Yeah, one day I want to get a group of herpers together that is okay in truthfully sharing their spots in that area up by you, because I want to try and take a 3-day weekend and I want to find all 6 in one weekend.
That would be sweet.
That's like I don't have many goals for herping in the US, but I just feel like as a Floridian and as a venomous guy, like I want to do that. And like your neck of the woods is the only place to do that,
Does the Apalachicola National Forest cover all 6?
No, I don't. Is there copperheads that far north?
Okay, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think if there's only like 5 or 6 tiny little pockets where you can get the copperhead. The copperhead, from what I gather, is the hardest in that group. Yep. Because it just barely comes into Florida.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy in Apalachicola that's the guy who's found everything. I mean, he's found rainbow snakes there.
Nice.
So he's probably not the guy that's going to go and say like, this is where I found him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it just, he's the guy that shows you that they're out there. But he also spends a ton of time out there looking. So
yeah, it's a numbers game, man. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. But, collection wise, like basically what stuck with me is some Apalachicola Kings and some locality, Dade County, Brookside.
Sure.
We
say Brookside here.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
we're team Brookside, except for Justin. Justin doesn't like them.
Yeah. So those guys, and then Tyler and I picked up some Mosaic Eastern Kings that are just
those Edisto ones.
Yes, man.
Dude, I saw those at Daytona, and oh my god.
So I reached out. It's Kevin Inge, who's working with those guys. I reached out to him before Daytona and said dibs on a couple of them. And before the show opened, we went over there and picked through what he had. But those things are insane, like black and white, beautiful locality Kings.
Tyler was like, "Dude, you want to see some Edisto Kings?" I was like, "Yeah," and he showed me. I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Super cool, man. Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Loafman's got some Outer Banks, man. I need them. I had them, and I don't now, and I need them. So I need him to raise them suckers up and get them fat and ready.
I used to work with some Outer Banks as well.
Awesome.
Oddly enough, that's what the Edistos reminded me of a lot.
Yeah. It's just a more like contrasty, vibrant Outer Banks.
Super cool.
Justin, so I spoke with Tyler today, and we're pumped to get those corn snakes to you. Yeah. So the person who got me into the reptile hobby was Benita Gala, and she ran a shop down in Sarasota that she initially bought from Ben Siegel many years ago. And, at 7 or 8 years old, I stumbled into her place and she hooked me up with a little chameleon that she raised for like 2 months so that I didn't kill it.
Nice.
And basically she's been working on that line of blood reds for, the last 7 or 8 years, many generations, to kind of make them more orange, bring up the white on the sides. And, Tyler said you're that guy. So I'm just curious, what corn snake stuff you're doing and, what you'll cross that into when you get them.
Well, the main thing for corns for me is the locality stuff that I have here. That's kind of been that's going to be the main focus in terms of like what I'm really planning to hold on to and sort of mess around with for the next, indefinite future.
Mm-hmm.
I live in the very bottom corner of South Carolina on the coast by Jasper County. So I'm in like the spot for corns. Like in my opinion, South Carolina corns, especially the ones here, are the corns, like world famous, the original corn spot. And there's a ton of barrier islands down here, and I live on one of them. And so the group that I have a reverse trio that's from my parents' property right up the road from me. And then I have another female from across the county, and she's I got her when she was back in like 2018. She was tiny, like fresh out of the egg. And it's she's ready to go now this year. So the Ladies Island stuff or the Beaufort County stuff is kind of going to be the big thing. But I do have some other morph stuff that I've started to pick up and dabble in, but I won't be getting into those breeding wise for another couple of years because everything I have is still kind of small. But yeah, I'm definitely, between Caulfield. He was a big proponent of the Okatee Hunt Club. He wrote about it a lot. But we have our buddy Chris Painshab. He's always got corns that he's like, dude, I'm going to send you these and these and these. And I'm like, I don't have space. then I want them because they're really nice. So I've got some like honey stuff I'm really big into. I've got like a het sun-kissed male that I'll tie into the locality stuff at some point. Probably not until he's going to need at least another year. I like Tessera stuff a lot. I've got some really nice high white A-male stuff from Mike Kosicki that's gonna, if it's going the route I think it is, they're gonna look really nice. I mean, they're gonna keep the high white that the dad has, and then I got some other Tessera and stripe stuff that I'm planning to play with down the line. So plenty of that's the issue, is there's just so many options in corns. There's literally no limits to what you can do with them, and it's kind of overwhelming. It's hard to stay focused on certain things, but the locality stuff is definitely where my heart and soul is focused on mostly with corns.
Sweet.
But I am extremely interested to see tying in that F1 stuff into some of these other morphs and whatnot, and seeing what happens.
Very cool.
It's awesome when you have an animal that is as iconic and fun and checks every box as the corn snake, and the fact that the three of us all have our own localities, and that's awesome. It's like it's a fun pride thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I've got that pair of Jasper Counties from Dan Parker that are, they're Jasper Counties, but they're like line bred, so they're kind of like the extreme version of what you would sort of find in the wild. But
okay,
I'm anxious to tie those into some of my stuff too locally, and then me and Jake plan to do a good bit of road cruising out that way when it starts warming up. So I'm hoping I can find some small. We don't like taking adult stuff in terms of like field collection and stuff. We try to keep it to yearlings or smaller, size wise roundabout. So hopefully we can find some smaller stuff. I really don't want a lot either. Like when it comes to that, like field collection, I don't want to take every single one I find. I want like one or two animals and I'm good.
Yep.
There's a certain ethical perspective when it comes to field collection that we definitely try to stick to. And, it's like one or two animals is cool, but taking home every single one you find is kind of a little bit much. So
yeah.
I'm hoping to find some gray rat snakes out here that are small enough that I feel good about hanging on to them. We've got some on our property here, and everything we've found is like monster adult animals, or at least animals that are like 3.5, 4 feet long, up to a male that was like over 6 feet long. He was huge. Wow. But yeah, growing up in Sarasota, I used to come up to Tallahassee with a buddy, Mark Lanier, who, was a herper in the area. And, we'd find what we called oak snakes, which were like really light, like silvery powder gray rat snakes. And out here by me, they're super dark, like completely different, just a couple hours west. But yeah, I've always loved the rat snakes. The yellow rat snake was the first snake I ever produced.
Nice. What do the yellow rat snakes look like in your neck of the woods?
So up here we have gray rats. In Sarasota, we've got the yellow rats, and those were like real bright yellow with really dark lines.
Yeah.
So it's like a pretty contrasty yellow rat snake.
Yeah, I didn't know if yellows actually went up into like the northwestern part of the state or not.
They don't. That's where we get grays. I wish we had yellows here because, they're my favorite as far as the rat snakes go. I think they're gorgeous. But out here, we've just got the gray rat snakes.
Nice.
In the Panhandle.
Yeah. We have a lot of yellows here, but they're not compared to those, like the ones Jake has, which I think are like Hendry County or something like that. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't hold a candle to those nice contrast clean. Like these are much dirtier, sort of. I don't know. They're cool. I've thought about if we ended up coming across a pair, because we see them all the time. Like they're everywhere down here, so it's not they're not hurting as far as population goes. But if I ever came across a pair, breeding those and re-releasing the parents and then just hold on to some babies or something, just a little tinkering sort of project. But
Yeah.
I don't know, those the females we have around here, man, they get freaking huge. It's like I don't think I have enough space to even house one of those comfortably, because they're gonna cruise and stuff constantly, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's neat to see the color change in the yellow rat snakes. They're born looking just like a gray rat snake baby, I think black rat snakes start the same, correct?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure all of them start like exactly the same,
Yeah.
Gray with saddles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a baby Everglades that Mike Kosicki gave me, and it's just starting to get a little pink on it, just starting to show. So it's only shed once for me so far, but I'm very excited because I've been looking for a very long time, and in the past we found them left and right, and not anymore. So let's see how this one goes.
It's because people were keeping every single one they found.
It's literally it. It's
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of people keeping every single one they found, every single one that was high color.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like there's just a major, because I'm a firm believer in it being either a subspecies or two species. It's a different animal. It really is, opposed to yellows. I don't care what DNA says, I'm that guy. But because of human encroachment and agriculture and highways and all that jazz, I really feel like all those choice animals got plucked.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have so much integrate with yellows that the pinks aren't as pink and the oranges aren't as orange. And that I really feel like that's what's happening right now. But what do I know?
You ever think maybe it was just you have crap luck?
It could be. Well, so in 2021, in all the herping that Anna Marie and I did in 2021,
you did a lot.
I did a lot. I tried to because I barely did 2020. Excuse me. I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I found 5 yellows. All of them were under 15 inches, but had or maybe 20 inches, but had changed color. 3 of them were DOR, and the 2 of them I gave to Billy. And I think one of them wound up passing away because it was just a runt, sadly to say.
Dang, I need some rat snakes from you guys. You're a bad influence now.
Tyler does it to us. It's only fair.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Dude, Tyler sends me so much cool stuff, man, and I'm just like, damn it, don't do that. Whether it's monitors or turtles.
He sends me a lot of monitor videos and stuff.
Yeah, man.
He's got good taste.
He does. It's annoying.
When we first talked about sharing a non-hingeback facility, I moved into the area and we decided, keep our hingeback collection separate. Like, honestly, it's safer to not put all your eggs in one basket. Like, aside from just like, I want to work on my stuff, and have control over all that stuff.
Yeah. No, sure.
Like, it's really better to have like 100 different collections of hingebacks than one giant one. But we had interest in some different lizards and stuff like that, and said it makes a lot more sense because we work together to collaborate on those projects instead of like, cool, you've got a caiman lizard and I've got a caiman lizard, like we can work on them together. And like the caiman lizard is something that was not even on my radar at all until I met him. And that's a lizard that he's, been in love with for a long time, and was like, dude, we're getting some caiman lizards. And those guys are big now. Like, we'll be pairing those up this season. I'm excited because, that's something that he's wanted to do for a long time, and no one's really producing them in the country, in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
But at Daytona, we touched base with a zoo friend of ours. I won't shout out his name because I don't want anyone to pester him, but he gave us some pointers because they're cranking them at the zoo he's at. And
nice.
Like, Tyler would die if we produced some caiman lizards. And then I threw monkey-tailed skinks, prehensile-tailed skinks at him, and we've gone mad. So basically it's, a caiman lizard, a Gurnia, Kurusha, monitor lizard, collection. That's
How many
been pretty
Kurusha you
cool.
got now?
A lot. How many
Like
do you think we have?
I mean, knowing you two, I want to say just adults, I'd say 20.
Yeah, so just adults were around there. And then,
Nice.
yeah, more than that many young ones. And
That's
it's
awesome.
basically, you know, it's a group of lizards that live in a circulus, right? So it's not like hingebacks where you need, you have 20 adults, you have 20 enclosures.
Mhm.
You can give them a nice big enclosure. They're living in this, family dynamic, which is what draws me to them. It's what draws me to Agurnia. And, that social dynamic where you might want to pair these two lizards up, but they're not about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something you
So-
see in herps a lot either. That's not something that's common in a lot of reptiles and amphibians.
Yeah, I mean, like the largest skink species, to my knowledge, they're arboreal. They have prehensile tails. They are leaf-eating specialists. They raise their young. They give live birth. Like they have a social dynamic. Like it's such a neat lizard, and they're obviously well in the hobby. A lot of people get them as single pets, but like they're totally underrated for being a lizard that's out in front of everyone's face. For a lizard that you're going to see interact with its partners and kind of like bond. They're really cool.
So I got 2 Kurusha questions.
Okay.
One is, how many of them are actually tame and will let you play with them?
Okay, so none.
Okay.
Not actually none. So
Okay.
the thing about them that we learned quickly, because the person who got me into those was Benita. At that shop, she bred Kurusha like crazy. And she had some that lived on it. She got like some climbing rope, like the braided rope, and hung it all over her shop and had pothos hanging basket planters. And one of her colonies lived loose in the store.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool.
That's really cool.
But tangent. So she got me into them, but all you have to do is get them out of the cage and they tame down. Like there's 2 of our entire colony, adults and babies, that are still going to nail you when they're outside of the cage. They tend to be cage aggressive. Like you go in there to go get them out and they're not super happy. But yeah, I mean, like they're used to us now. They're used to our hands going in and out. We don't handle them much. Like they don't love it. We only really get them out to help them with a stuck shed or something like that.
Sure.
But we really, we leave them alone. But that's another reason I love them. Like they are sassy. They're out to get you. They're not sweet lizards.
And I'm sure all that helps with like keeping the stress down and relaxation in that family unit, which segues to my next question is, have you noticed, because you're keeping multiple adults, because you're keeping mom with babies, of course, have you noticed any legitimate, like, I don't want to say postpartum issues with removing offspring or even selling offspring?
So we're not that far yet. We've had our groups together for a year and a half now. And we have not produced any babies yet. So the young ones that we have are ones that came in. They're imports. Sure. Everyone sells them as a captive produced.
No, they're imports.
They're imports. Yeah, they're imports. As far basically what it seems from people I've spoken with, like Benita and then Eric Akaba, who is like the Kurusha guru. He's got more Kurusha than anyone I know, and he's on like 8th generation captive born. Like wow. The guy has some adults that he's had for like 30 years. If you have Kurusha questions, it's really him to speak with. But it seems like males at some point get pushed out by the father. You know, and within a cage that can cause problems. Like you got to
Sure.
get the male out of there at like a year old or less, 6 months, a year, 18 months, depending on the animal.
Okay.
Because obviously he has no other tree to go to. But what he has shared is that the daughters do not get pushed out for the most part, but he will not breed them.
Really?
And that's anecdotal, but that's something that he shared. He made an entire long thread on Facebook on the Kurusha group, talking about how he had a leucistic pied looking male.
Really?
Yeah. And, you know, obviously he wanted to try and reproduce that, but in order to do that, you have to produce daughters and then breed it back to the father. And he was never able to get the father to breed those girls.
Wow.
You know, it's like leave them in that circulus to see if he would then breed his daughter. And, you know, someone mentioned, well, why don't you pull all the females away and then reintroduce the daughters years later? And it's kind of like he definitely sees them as the bonded lizards that like have chosen those adult females, and he's not going to disrupt that.
Sure.
Which like I respect. And, you know, to this day, most of his colonies at this point are descendants from that animal, and he's never popped another one out to my knowledge.
Wow.
But, you know, as far as, you know, the mother's well-being of like having babies removed, I'm sure the animals that are being imported, like I'm sure those adult females deal with that on top of the stress of like some person ripping their baby away or exporting them as well or whatever they're doing there.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Kurusha are around, but the amount of people who are actually producing them is low. And so another, you know, reasoning behind us setting up the size group that we did is that they're super low maintenance. Once you get them in their groups, and you know, we have the resources to keep those groups going, and you know, get some captive born on the ground so that, you know, if we're hoping that, you know, they stop importing the things. It's not a lizard that's sustainably collected. Like these
Yeah.
things have 1 to 0 to 2 babies a year. And like they do live long lives, but they're not the lizard that needs to be collected and exported. So, you know, it's not like a, you know, I don't know, something like collecting a corn snake.
Right.
Removing even an adult female corn snake is completely different from removing an adult female Kurusha that was like
Yeah.
bonded in its family group. And, you know, like, do we know that that male is going to move on to like go find another female? Like we don't. So
Yeah, we had an article in one of the magazines a while back that my buddy Harlan Wall wrote, and he talked about those in particular, and it was about, you know, the importance of obscurity and obscure species and like captive breeding those, and that was one of the examples of one of those species that, you know, was at one point very cheap and very common, and then over time, you know, interest shift or, you know, importation got completely cut off, and all of a sudden they went from being a pretty cheap lizard to being extremely expensive, and the lack of people putting in serious time in breeding them and stuff like that has led to that as well. And I've heard a lot of mixed things about them in terms of, you know, yeah, they're not terribly pleasant to mess with, and but as far as like the social dynamics though, I didn't know that they were that complex.
yeah, I mean, there's a, like, to what you just shared, there was a podcast that Ron St. Pierre was on, and he shared getting like canary yellow Kurusha years ago for like $20 a
Yeah.
piece. I don't remember the number, but it was like, this is insane. Like you don't find canary yellow ones around. We have like a couple that have some crazy coloration, but definitely not for $25.
Yeah.
Or 50 or 100, whatever it was.
What are the adult groups that you're keeping? I mean, is like, can you have multiple males in with a group, or is it just one male and a handful of females?
Yeah, so it's Eric generally runs 1.1s or 1.2s. 1.3s definitely can work. What we've found so far in pairing these things up is that females can honestly be the nasty ones. Like females are the ones pushing other females out, or females are pushing males out. So, males so far tend to be happy with the girls that are put in there, whether he's breeding them or not, or he just sees them as a lizard that can live in his cage. I'm not sure. But it's getting those females. So basically from the young ones that we've raised up, it's raising them in groups so that they're socialized. And that's something Eric said from the beginning, like we need to raise these guys together. Even the young ones that are, imports, do not house them alone, because they grow up to be these, like, for lack of better terms, antisocial, nasty lizards that you can't really pair up. And I've heard that with a Gurnia too. A couple people have told me, like, buying lone adults and trying to pair them up is like a recipe for disaster compared to just raising a group of babies together and then whittling down.
And that's the Cayman lizards?
These are the Agurnia.
Yeah.
That's like the spiny-tailed skinks from Australia.
Yeah. Yep.
That was actually my next question. Is which
Yeah, like
species of Agurnia you guys keep?
You're sounding fuzzy, Phil, like your mic's connected. Try
How
it.
about now?
There you go.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, is which species of Agurnia are you guys keeping? Do you like just Gidgies or?
There's only one answer to that, and that's not enough.
Nice.
So, man, I'm in love with those things. So we keep Gidgies,
Cool.
and we have 2 of the subspecies of Gidgies, to my knowledge. But like, yeah, they're Hosmeri we want. Like the dwarfs we definitely want, but not in excess. Like the Gidgies are the ones that you can keep in like groups of 8 or groups of 6, groups of 10 even, together. Like some of them, I've got a 2.1 as well, but those are the ones that you're keeping kind of communally. They get bigger. And the dwarfs like Depressa, Eos, Epsisolus, and Signitos, we definitely want some, and we almost jumped at grabbing a group, but it's setting those up just in like a pair and doing it right. So
dude, Epsisolus is intense, bro.
So cool. Yeah,
dude,
they're stunning.
Literally like desert digital camo.
Yes.
Dude, those are definitely my favorite. I mean, they're obviously, in my opinion, they're the most impressive looking. But dude, Gidgee size is just love it. It's like, how big are your adults?
So again, that's ones that we're raising up. The stock from a local friend of ours that we got some of them from, those are like, I don't know. I want to say like bearded dragon size.
I was say like a solid 10 inches.
Yeah, like 8 to 10, I would say.
Nice.
I think 10 is maybe a little long. I don't know that they're quite 10, but yeah, I mean, they get bigger, and it's that lizard that's, like it could totally replace a bearded dragon if someone was going to handle it. It's out and active. It's eating like salads and some insects. Like they're super easy to keep. Another lizard that's easy to keep. It's out there. It's underrated in my opinion. I don't see, Ray Gerge is the one who turned me onto those guys as a kid. He's a guy that's down here in Florida, and he cranks Agurnia from, mostly Gidgies, but I think he produces Depressa as well.
Very cool. My buddy Manny from Tiki's Geckos, he's got a good group of Gidgies, and all his adults are like 8-9 inches long. But it's frustrating because every time I go hang out with him, I want to like, I've never held an adult, you know what I mean? And I want to like interact with them. But when you get within 6 feet of the enclosure, all you hear is gone. Like the entire, I think he's got like, 8 or 9, family unit in that one enclosure, and you just see dust.
So I experienced that as well with the first ones I got. And then I
Okay.
got some from Eric Russell at ZoomEd. He works for ZoomEd. That guy is incredible.
Eric is the man.
Yeah. So
The man.
he came and visited, and he saw how I had him set up, and he said, like, your enclosure looks great, but keep them in an enclosure that is front opening, so that they're like at face height, front opening, and tongue feed them. If you give them their salads and you tongue feed the insects, they go crazy for insects. And like his are literal puppy dogs. Like almost all of his, that's not the case. It's not walking up to a cage and they dart. Like his animals tongue feed, and like you can walk up to the cage and they're out. And we took a group that I bought from Eric and put them in an enclosure in our house. It's the only like reptiles in our house, and those things are out every evening and every morning. Most of them are not scared of us, and they're out and active. So I think it's just, I don't know, it's just showing them that you're the bringer of food instead of some predator.
Yeah. Dude, and it could also be that, Russell's just got the gift, man.
Yeah,
He's got the touch,
Yeah,
I actually, the first time I ever met him, like I'd seen him in passing over the years at Underground and wherever else he was, visiting. And I wanted to get some Lepidophyma, and my buddy Marcus was like, dude, I think Eric's got some. He's selling like some babies he produced. And I was like, oh, really? And I hit him up, and he's like, yeah, I've got an extra female and I've got a baby. And I was like, all right, I'll take both of them. And he had some Egernia in the car when we did our little deal. So like he hands me the Lepidophyma in the deli cups, and I'm like, oh, these are so cool. And he's like, yeah, you like, drab colored lizards with spiky tails? Look at this. And I was like, man, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
So, but dude, he's great people, man. Great people.
He's fantastic. And, before, I was a customer, he was super happy to teach me and share everything he knew. Like,
yeah,
the dude, he's got a good heart, and he's a great
heart.
Reptile ambassador.
Oh, that's the perfect word for it too, man. A legit ambassador. And dude, he's a fantastic herper too.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, some of his pictures he showed me from, intercontinental herping, dude, like the man's got the gift.
He's got photos of hingebacks from his trip to South Africa.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, he's
absolutely awesome.
He's done some great herping. He breeds a lot of species that are tricky that no one else is breeding. Yeah, he's doing cool stuff.
Yeah, man. And his setups are incredible with all the automation and everything.
Yep.
Super cool.
You hang out with Justin Meeker too, like Tyler does?
Justin's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
he was one of the guys. He wrote a Strophaurus article for us a while back too. That was
okay.
Like ever since he sent in that article, man, that's a gecko species. I have to get I don't even care what species it is. I have to get my hands on some before I die.
Yeah, no, they're incredible.
Such cool lizards, dude.
I'm just waiting so I can hit the lottery and buy his Asper.
I was just texting the other day because I was talking to Alan Stevens about some Kimberly rock monitors and the possibility of those happening later this year. Ask because I know Meeker has some, and what size enclosures he was having his adults in and stuff like that, so I can kind of plan ahead if they do happen. And
cool.
That's just, he's got so much cool stuff, man.
He does.
He's an incredible reptile mind as well. Yeah. I mean, it's these guys that have these niche species that they're working with that like absolutely crush it. Like,
yeah,
have a mean and lean collection that's like really contributing to the hobby. With a couple species that they work with, like, yeah, no, Justin's doing awesome stuff.
Yeah, man. Couldn't agree more.
Oh.
So back to tortoises. Do you guys dabble in pancakes at all?
So David, the guy who I went to South Africa with the first time, he's doing really well with Pancake Tortoises. He set up his wild cut groups like 10 years ago, and at this point is like a Pancake Tortoise factory.
Nice.
But I've raised some up. I love them. It's the tortoise that eats way more than anybody else, even though they're these tiny flat things. Poops more than any other tortoise.
Just
and
goes right through them.
And hides more than any other tortoise. But they are so cool. I don't still keep them, but it is like anyone who's kept them for a long time, like it's the eating, pooping, hiding tortoise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just like them because they're smushed Connexus.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, they are. Yeah. No, Pancake Tortoises are great.
Yeah. We were talking about Pierre Leone before we started recording, and you said you've kept some Spangleri in the past too.
Yes. Yeah. And I even kept some from him. I had 2 captive born babies from him that I passed along to a friend. Yeah, I mean, he's your guy for Spangleri. He's dedicated a good portion of his collection and his space and, knowledge to the black-breasted leaf turtle, for anyone who doesn't know what Spangleri is. But yeah, it's a small leaf-looking turtle that has more personality than anything you're going to find. Like, they're the turtle that's like clawing at the cage, big eyes, mouth open, ready for a worm.
It seems really like that's a running theme with a lot of herps that are smaller. The smaller ones typically have the more personality. Like I found that with the dart frogs, all the Ranatomea seem to be more inquisitive than the bigger like Dendrobates and stuff like that I kept.
Interesting.
But yeah, I didn't we had talked about it when we had them on. Like I had no idea that they were as small as they were. When you see pictures of them, it's kind of hard to get sort of a context in terms of just how big they are. But I had no idea that they were that small because I was like, that's really the only thing that holds me back from keeping Connexus, and some of that other stuff is just size. I don't have a whole lot of space to devote to something like that. But
yeah,
talking to him about those and how he's keeping them and knowing how big or how small they stay, it's like that's a different story than that I might be able to work with.
Yeah, Spangleri are, like I said before we went live, it's a, little mini Connexus erosa. That's really what it is. Erosa are going to get 10 inches long, and, not everyone wants that, but Spangleri is going to get 4 or 5 inches and, have every bit of the personality that any tortoise has.
Yeah, he was a blast to talk to, too. I really, really enjoyed the episode we did with him.
Anthony's awesome. Yeah. Him and what the Turtle Room is doing for turtles and tortoises. Yeah, I mean, no one else is doing that stuff. So, they fill a void that, no one else is filling in the community.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Colonian community is considerably smaller than I think there are a lot of other corners of herpetoculture. So, like I said at the beginning of that episode, we were talking to him, it seems like the turtle and tortoise guys are so much more sort of tuned in and dedicated to particular species than it seems like a lot of other people that are sort of, like myself and even Phil and the other guys here at the network. We have a little bit of everything, it seems like, but it's like turtle and tortoise guys, they're locked in, they're dedicated to, only a handful of species, but they're all in on them.
Yep.
I think, I've thought about that, what you're saying right now, over the years. And like when I had my colubrid collection, it was a little bit of everything. And I think part of it comes down to most turtles and tortoises require at least, I'm not talking like a leopard or a Greek tortoise, like some of the outer realm niche species require such unique husbandry or unique something about that turtle that it would be hard to like put together a breeding facility for like Spangleri and I don't know, an arid species. Like I couldn't imagine keeping Homopus and Spangleri in the same exhibit. Those things one of the two would not do well.
Right.
And I think Anthony does really well at his facility working with Spangleri and, Egyptian tortoises and Pyxis and, different Cobra, different little musk turtles. So he does a good job at providing the, micro habitats within an enclosure to keep some different stuff and succeed. But, it's a lot easier to, put a rack together that you can keep an indigo and a hognose and a corn snake and, Asian rat snakes and all this other stuff in, where, at least in the parameters that I keep in my facility, a lot of other turtles and tortoises would struggle. And, a layer on top of that seems different in turtles and tortoises is like disease. Parasites and disease are a serious problem with wild-caught turtles and tortoises. And I'm sure they are with snakes, but man, I feel like I could collect a pair of gray rat snakes and they would do great with me. And, they'd probably produce a bunch of babies and I would turn them loose and they would go on their way. And Hingeback tortoises are not that. And neither are Spangleri, neither are Egyptians, or box turtles even. Their biome is just different enough that you kind of have to specialize. So
sure,
they force us to do that just by the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at stuff that the parameters for what the wiggle room you have in terms of care and stuff is a lot more narrow, I think, than in a lot of other, snakes in particular.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, you can paint with a broader brush with a lot of snake species, especially what's commonly kept and what's popular, than what you can with turtles and tortoises.
Yeah, and I spoke with Justin the other day, and he said, I was cleaning bowls at the time, I believe, water dishes in the facility, and the Hingebacks, each one's in its own enclosure. They all have their own bowls. Cleaning bowls twice a week takes a long time. And it was, it was kind of pointed out it's just different. I think the workload is a bit different too. And I've had a collection of 2,000 adult colubrids, and that was a similar amount of input as 200 tortoises. I don't have 200, but something
sure,
those are comparable. And you're taking a zero off of that number. So in snakes, being able to just feed a quick mouse or a rat, clean the water dish, spot clean, and move on. Just the workload is different.
Yeah, everything adds up, even in small increments, because if you have 200 small water bowls for colubrids opposed to 20 big water bowls for tortoises or larger lizards, just the time it takes you to clean each bowl, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's like I imagine with your facility, I mean, I don't want to assume, but a lot of people that have a large facility like yours, they'll have, let's say they have 200 water bowls. Well, they'll own 400 because you just swap it so that you can clean them all together in a mop sink or whatever, opposed to me, where I don't have that capability at my home. So I have to hand clean each one,
Yeah, that was actually brought up to me recently. And I made the comment that just the bowls I use are I don't know, 10 or $20 a piece, depending on the size. And with as many as I have, and with parasites and all that kind of stuff, I do go and clean each bowl. Gloves are changed, all that stuff. But he said, you should just have double the bowls, exactly what you're saying now. And when I had snakes, it was, the deli cups that
whatever you have, Tupperware, whatever.
Yeah, or the deli cup goes in a PVC fitting, and I wasn't worried about biosecurity and disease. And it was pull all the water bowls, bleach them in a giant trash can, put new ones in, fill the waters, and then go through and clean all those bowls real quick. But to service 2,000 colubrids was as fast as I could pull waters and refill them Like there was like if I had to take each bowl out, clean it, put it back, like yeah, it's
a lot for one dude.
Yeah, it's just different. And it helps keep your numbers down. But like someone sees a snake facility and then a tortoise facility that just has way less, like it's a similar workload for, a fraction of the animals.
I'm lazy as hell when it comes to that. And like I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I got 10 snakes that I just gave water for the first time since September because of the species at hand. But like, I'm like, man, I can't imagine if I had to do this a couple times a week,
Yeah. And it's, for me, it's twice a week, or it's not letting it go 4 days. It's not actually twice a week, but I helped manage a large snake breeding operation in Loxahatchee, Florida. And when I was doing that, we're in Florida, we got bugs, roaches, gnats, all that good stuff. Like changing waters every third day broke the cycle for a lot of those bugs that lay eggs in the water. So you keep your bug numbers way down by just changing waters every 3 days. So, the time that you let it go 4 or 5, you'll know it. In Florida with tortoise waters that are being soiled, like as soon as you put them down there, like tortoises are legendary for just, you clean the water, they crawl right in and poop in it.
Of course.
And, snakes can do that too, but it's on occasion. It's like, doesn't seem as intentional as the tortoises.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you're dealing with water turtles, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't envy aquatic turtle keepers. I don't know. We have a couple that we kind of dabble in, a couple different species that we work with together. And I mean, they can be a headache. And a lot of them want it warm. Like they don't want it cold either. And of course it's getting cold. So it's like, oh man, what do we do?
What's as far as parasites go, what's the most common that you seem to find in the imported Connexus?
Yeah, it's everything from like amoeba to, pinworms to like different viruses and all that fun stuff. So there was a group of Connexus belliana brought into the country. It's the first time we've gotten Kenyan Connexus ever in the United States, or at least to my knowledge, like more than 30 years if they had come in before that. And they came in, basically 99.9% of them have not done well for people, including like myself and folks who like have established these other species before. We sent out entire specimens and tissue samples, blood samples, fecals, all that kind of good stuff to like 4 different institutions, and we have 0 answers. We don't know what they were carrying, which is definitely scary. And that's why we have a quarantine facility that is not our home facility, that is not, even walked into on the same days as our home facility. Like, you have to take it seriously. And that's just so foreign. Like I never did that with snakes, and maybe I should have, I don't know. Maybe it was doing snakes and it was like more the Wild West, 15, 20 years ago, but I don't know. I never worried that much about quarantine bringing in a new animal as I do now. And
that's incredible.
Never had like a big collection die off or anything crazy growing up, with a big collection. So, what is most common? It's all, everything, really. Everything that something could have. Hingebacks tend to have the potential to carry, but these guys, we ran a 5-panel viral test. We did fungal swabs, bacterial swabs, blood tests. Some of them were necropsied and they died. A lot died. and we don't really know why.
What's the best technique that you guys do for, lack of a better word, deworming a tortoise?
Yeah, so basically the protocol that I personally take, and I would say, like, I have a great vet here. Get a hold of a great vet, to help you with that, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But with hingebacks, it's keeping them individually. Give them like 4 weeks of nothing. Like, keep it dark, leave them alone. Literally, like, don't give them lights. Like, keep them at the right temperature, keep it pretty dark, maybe like a little ambient light so that they can eat and drink, clean their water every 3 days. Get them hydrated. They're dehydrated. A lot of them, like, there are tether holes drilled in the shells of some of my tortoises where they were hanging in markets. Like, these things are hanging in a market and end up here, super dehydrated, like trashed.
Wow.
Don't feed them fruit or anything sweet that's going to mess with the fermentation in their gut.
Yeah.
And then I do, 4 weeks of that, assess, and then I do Panicure and metronidazole as, like, prophylactic treatments, just assuming like they're going to need at least these two. And that's like, consulting with a vet, getting fecals, like doing all the sampling that I need to do, whether it's a cloacal swab or whatever it is.
On the Panicure, is it liquid or is it powder?
Panicure is a paste. It's like the horse Panicure.
Well, I've used Panicure copious amounts of times in liquid form. Okay. And we've just injected it into the prey item, but obviously frozen thawed, not alive.
Right.
And or even down like a frozen thawed rat's mouth. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And but I don't know how you would do that on a tortoise that's eating, salad.
So it's not easy. They don't want to eat it.
Thompson's own dressing.
Especially metronidazole. So it's, and that has a real bad taste. So Tyler got in a group of Homiana when I first got down here, and it is literally, it's easier with 2 people, but it's grabbing the front legs of the tortoise, pulling the head out, which a hingeback tucks its front legs in like this, totally blocking its head, like 3 inches deep in its shell. Like, you are not getting it out. I had a friend of mine who worked with galbinifrons. It's the really pretty flowerback Asian box turtles. Anthony works with them too, and he's a great resource for me. I've reached out to him and said, like, dude, like, I literally can't worm these things, like, help. Did it with box turtles. Like, how the hell did you get a box turtle wormed when they can literally shut their entire shell? And he said that he would grab a leg while they're sleeping. And it doesn't sound sweet, but like, the animal needs to get treated.
Yeah.
A lot of these turtles and tortoises will sleep with their legs out. And so he would wait until the night, click the lights on real quick, grab a leg. And then once you have one leg, the other egg, the rest of it's very easy and like not, it's like honestly fairly gentle on the tortoise. Like, once you have that one leg, the tortoise like calms down, or like, I don't know whether it thinks like, okay, it's got me, or what's going through its head. Yeah. So like,
it's happening.
Yeah, it's not fun, but with a hingeback tortoise, it can close its back.
Mm-hmm.
It can completely shut in its legs and its head. So you're grabbing a leg. Sometimes you don't have to wait till it's dark, but like, some of them you do, and you're grabbing a leg, you're tubing the medication so that it got the right amount, and that's as much as you're messing with that animal. Like, that's enough stress to like take that animal out if it's not doing well. So but yeah, Panicure, metronidazole, and then kind of like seeing what you got. And that protocol, I don't know, 12 of 16 or 13 of 16 survived for Tyler, which, may not sound amazing, but like, that is really, really good numbers. A lot of people, like, setting up Homiana will set up however many, 5 to 50, and like, they're lucky if one survives.
Wow.
So the protocols seem to work. I think a lot of it is just leaving the darn things alone.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Has anyone
Yeah.
tried like injecting a strawberry with Panicure? That way, like they go to bite it and like they haphazardly get some in their mouth.
So we do that for our redfoots. We work with some hypo redfoot tortoises. And all of our adults, like you can get them to eat Panicure on a banana or a strawberry, no problem. Like
Suckers.
they do not care.
Yeah.
Hingebacks are just different, man. They're just picky. You know, and the redfoots aren't getting metronidazole, which has a really bad taste. So, you know, that's where, you know, Hingeback's definitely not going to eat metro, but yeah, they're picky. Like a Hingeback is the tortoise that you chop food super tiny, mix it all together, and then an adult tortoise that's 10 inches long is picking through it.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, no, I wanted the mushrooms. I'll leave the rest of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I also imagine because Conyxes are fairly omnivorous that you could maybe even try it with like a frozen thawed day old pink.
Yep.
You know, and
Yeah.
try and like, even if you're tweezer feeding the pinky and like just shove it all the way in there real quick.
So captive born, that's how I do Panicure. And
Okay.
captive born, I'm not doing metronidazole. You know, it's just keeping like, you know, worms down.
Sure.
So yeah, it is in meat items. So yeah, in a pinky, and a captive born is going to chow that thing down if you put like anything in it. It doesn't care. Like
Nice.
they're eating that pinky. So that is a great tool for people to use.
That's cool, man. That's good.
You're ready to be a Hingeback keeper. Come on.
Dude, I want to, but I'm afraid, man, because like excuse me, I'll clear my throat. I want to, but I'm afraid that I can't. I'm afraid that I can't be there as much as I need to. And like I don't want to say I struggle with some of the lizards, but I have to make a valiant effort and remind myself that they're not snakes and they have to eat frequently, and I have to, you know, provide vitamins and minerals and calcium and all that. And doing a tortoise, I don't think it's conducive to my schedule right now, and I don't want to get into it because I want to do it right, like you guys. I want to. And if I do, it's 100% going to be Conyxes, hands down. But I'm just weary that I can't be the best, you know, tortoise father that I want to be. You know what I mean?
That's totally fair, man. And like, yeah, I respect that. It is it's a different undertaking, and like they definitely tolerate, you know, I'm gonna say neglect because like that's my own, like I can neglect a snake for lack of better terms. Like, you know, it's not being on top of feeding it 3 times a week, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, the green tree pythons that we've got at work are fed very infrequently. And like, that's what I mean by like neglect, right? Like the animal needs very little from me to do well. So yeah, I totally hear you.
No, Tyler and I were talking about those chondros the other day. He was sending me pictures. He's like, dude, they stay cuddled up all the time. He's not getting any action from them.
So I give him crap all the time about those guys and the caiman lizards, all that stuff, because I just say like, I'm trying to set his expectations very low so that if we do get eggs, and heaven forbid they hatch, like he's excited, but he's not expecting chondro eggs. I think he is, but I'm trying to get him to where he's not expecting chondro eggs. Those are, you know, that's a pair of snakes that Benita's had for also forever, like 15 or more years.
Yeah, he told me they were up there years wise. I mean, they're not like ancient, but they're definitely older animals.
Yeah. So like a blue male, aqua blue male.
Dude, that's an awesome pair.
Yeah.
I asked him, he sent me that picture the other morning. He's like, hey, what do you think of these? And I was like, Photoshop. He's like, no, man, it's real. I was like, that it's not hormonal. He goes, yeah, it's hormonal all year round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say, man, and you know, I'm assuming you say chondros. It's the one true chondro, Chondrodactylus.
Yeah.
That's what I want to get in, man. Marcus has one, and we gotta get more. They're so damn expensive right now.
Are they?
Yeah, dude. It's like $800 for a baby. It's crazy, but they're worth it, man. They're the one true chondro.
Mm.
The one true chondro.
Mm.
Yeah, as soon as we went over there, like picked up a lot of Benita's stuff because she's older and she wanted us to work with some of that stuff. And as soon as we saw the green tree python style, it was like, I want those. Like, don't let anyone don't send those to anyone else. And she's excited to see them in nice enclosures and doing their thing. So
Yeah, I mean, Ian Bissell has a pair that they lock up constantly, and he's never, I don't think he's ever gotten an egg from them. Like, they lock up all the time. It's almost recreational. They just, nothing ever comes of it. He's like, whatever. He just leaves them together, and they do their thing.
Tyler needs to hear you say that. He does.
Do you think Tyler would be upset if I shared that picture?
No, definitely not.
All right. Okay, hold on. Because this is like, it's just too freaking cool.
Well, it's wild that it's the male that's like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, normally you would expect that from the female, but I saw the picture. I was like, that's totally the male. Like, ridiculous.
Yeah, no,
ridiculous.
It is definitely a male. And like, I've had eyes on that animal 5 days a week for the last year and a half. Like, it is blue every single day. It doesn't change. And it's not like sometimes a green blue. Like, no, it is blue all the time.
Oh, and like, even dude, and the spots, the white spots are just so perfect,
Yeah.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, it's a stunning snake.
I mean, even the female, man, like those are both just, that's a killer pair. Like, what those two will produce when they do.
Yeah, dude, all this blue that's in here, like, at first you think, okay, it's just reflecting off the male, but no, man, that's her. Because you can even see some of it up in here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's got a little bit on her dorsal too, some blue.
Yeah. Like, if you really focus, it's gonna be hard for the people watching this on YouTube later on, but like, there's just so much blue just in here that the camera's just not picking up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, it'd be really cool to reproduce those guys, but it's just, if it happens, it happens. And if not, we enjoy seeing them in the office.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah.
Well, we're at 2:15 and change. If anybody wants to stay in the loop as far as what you and Tyler are doing, where can they do this?
So our collaborative efforts are Ratty Kudu Reptiles. I'm at the Connexus Cooperative. So that's at Connexus Co-op or Connexus Coop on Instagram, Facebook. The Connexus Cooperative is my website. So theconnexuscooperative.com. As far as Tyler's Hingeback stuff, it's at Tortuga Fontana.
Always makes me laugh.
Always gets me every time.
I think that's intentional.
It's the most Tyler. It fits so well for his personality. It's like, that's exactly.
It does. It does.
Yeah, it does. And then, the Connexus Working Group. Honestly, out of anything else, that's the place that folks ought to go. Like, if they've got questions, a lone animal, if they want to get into Hingeback tortoises or just learn, it's the Connexus Working Group, because that's 5 of us who can help get back to you with questions and help find those animals. Usually people will do like a little intake survey, and if they're looking for a species, we can help them find it.
Your mic is fuzzy again, Phil. That's why I muted you real quick. I think your XLR cable's dying or something. There you go.
How about now?
You got it.
Sorry, guys.
Money. You're good.
Sorry. But the most important question of the evening, now that my microphone is working, the most important question of the evening: when are we going to get some TWG t-shirts?
So, some working group. So we made 6 shirts for Daytona. and we have yet to do a run of shirts, but it'll happen this year for sure.
All right, good. It better.
We probably won't do them on like the crazy weird teal color that we did them on.
That's fine. I want the first. I want the first one that's for civilian sale.
Okay, sweet. I appreciate the support.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, we may do the Connexus breeding sticker on a shirt. We may do that too. So we'll
Hell
see.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, a working group sticker or a working group shirt definitely needs to happen.
Cool, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
You make one for the co-op, you make one for the group, you make one with the two Connexus, and I'll get all three of them.
Yeah, oh, of course.
Sweet.
You know what? I gotta get the whole set for my mom too. So
yeah, didn't you give that sticker to your mom?
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So when I got the shirts from Jay, I was like, yeah, I got two, because one for me, one for my mom, and then he gave me a bunch of stickers, and I gave my mom all the stickers, and she loves that stuff. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we really appreciate you coming on, man. It's a good show.
Yeah, great show, man. Great show. Covered so much stuff.
We did.
Love
we
it.
got a lot in there. This episode was brought to you by Puget Sound Pythons. Check them out, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And then blackboxcages.com. Please hit them up if you need a rack, you need a cage. They make a size for just about anything you need. You don't get much better as far as build quality than you do with Black Box. So check them out on Facebook and Instagram as well, and blackboxcages.com. We will see everyone Thursday. We're doing our monthly one-on-one, me and Jake. So
nice.
And then we have a ConjureCast episode lined up. I'll leave it at that. That's going to happen the 10th or the 13th. I think the 13th, actually. Whatever that Thursday is. So that's going to happen. And yeah, we're going to have to get another Corn Stars episode figured out too. I know I've talked to Chris about doing one. So we just got to schedule that and make it happen. So
nice.
Staying busy as always.
Good. The episode 2 of Venom Exchange Radio with myself and the fabulous Nipper Reed will be airing Sunday.
Yes.
So episode 2, we have our first live human guest. And for those of you who are actually listening to this show, I will give you the teaser. It is the one and only Mr. Kyle the Club King.
Hey.
So episode 2, Venom Exchange Radio, Google, Spotify, Apple, all the places that you listen to us already. Venom Exchange Radio, Venom Exchange Radio, Venom Exchange Radio. Go check it out. Thank you very much.
I bet you Nipper lost his mind for that one, man.
Dude, it was
so all kinds of into it.
I'm like, I talked to Kyle before the show, and I was like, hey man, you, me, and Justin covered a lot on that one THP episode, but we want to talk more like the field herping aspect and stuff. And Nipper had a list to talk about, and dude, we barely scratched the surface. So we got to have him on again, just because we talked field herping and captive breeding, and Nipper's obsessed with Willardy, and I don't even know how many individual animals Kyle has that he's produced himself. So and then once Nipper found out that Kyle's got Vipera species,
yeah,
that was it. It was over. Oh, you breed Kaznakovi? Okay, change the topic.
Yep.
So it's a great show. Hopefully everyone likes it. Venom Exchange Radio, I'll say it for the umpteenth time. Sunday, it'll come out Sunday. I don't know if it's gonna Sunday. I don't know if it'll be actual Sunday, because Google and Apple suck with uploading stuff, but it should be on Spotify on Sunday.
Free Slim Jims for the kids.
But dude, thank you again, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
Appreciate you guys.
Everyone have a good evening.
Bye.